Welcome to episode 2 of the Successory Show, where we discuss all things of success, whether it be in life or sport. Joined again by my wonderful and beautiful co-host, Riley Presnell, and we have a great topic today on friends of failure. Riley, how you doing?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. It's like 7 p.m. and I'm drinking a Monster, so I'm living my best life.
This almost became Caffeinated Conversations. Luckily, it's just Riley, or else I'd be talking way faster. So the Successory Show may have a spin-off series known as Caffeinated Conversations. Mine is currently decaf.
So, I mean, pretty much any conversation that we have is pretty much a caffeinated conversation. So it's not really any different than normal. But we are kind of energy drink connoisseurs. I throw that term around loosely.
I would so small, right, but there's a whole shelf, like 4 shelves that are loaded with 5 different energy drinks, so right, that we constantly rotate in and out of the fridge. There's 6 different brands in there currently, so I would say that's accurate. Accurate suggestion that we're a connoisseur of energy drinks.
You know, I have a confession that I can't finish a full energy drink can.
She can't finish any, not just energy drink, any drink can. So whatever she has is I get to come by and finish up. So one thing Riley fails at in life is finishing a drink. Friends of failure who finish drinks.
I fail at finishing a full drink. And you know what? I own it. It's fine. You know, it's fine, really.
I'm okay with it because it's more for me. It's great. Sharing is caring, and since you don't finish, I finish, so it's a teamwork.
It's really me being incredibly thoughtful for your needs.
And generous, thank you, I appreciate it.
I'm glad you recognize it for what it is.
Absolutely. We're also testing out one microphone today to see if the YouTube version of this, if you're listening on a podcast, awesome, I appreciate it. All of you who shared it, that was super cool of you, thank you. And for giving it a 5-star, we're not up on iTunes yet as of today, which is Sunday, or Google, but we are on Anchor, we are on Spotify, like a million bajillion small things I've never heard of. You can find us there too, even though you've never heard of it either, but you can find us there. But we're testing out the one mic to see if YouTube sounds a little bit better that way, so please let us know how it is.
Yeah, so I think right now it's just Anchor, Spotify, and Pocket Cast. Breakcast might be the other one. I'm not really familiar with what those are, but still waiting for the iTunes. So that should be up soon. But yeah, like Trevor said, thank you to everyone that shared. We think that it's really awesome that you guys want to listen to us ramble for an extended period of time. But we want to make it as interactive as possible, which is why before this episode we posted a poll relating to the topic that we're talking about today. So it was cool to see everyone get kind of involved, answer our poll that we did, which the question was, which do you fear more, failure or the possibility of success? And it was actually kind of
interesting based off our audience.
Yeah.
Mine was 57, 43%. 57 people feared failure more than the possibility of success, and 44% or 43% feared the possibility of success, which we'll go into. And you had a little bit different numbers.
Yeah, mine was 67% feared failure, 33% feared the possibility of success. And it was kind of interesting to see the audience. There were some people that I expected to put the possibility of success, but realistically, I think that, and Trevor and I kind of came to this consensus, that I really think that everyone is scared of the possibility of success, not necessarily that they're afraid to fail. It is what is expected of them once they do succeed.
Absolutely. I got a great message, a DM from one of my clients who read that, Chuck, and I'll read that real quick. I also have a great Jill Sonic quote I want to read. But right away, when the poll went up, Chuck, most are afraid of success, but they don't know it. They have programmed themselves to self-sabotage anytime things are going too well. And that's all too well, especially in sport, where training programs are going fantastic, athletes hitting PRs, and they show up on the meet and they shit the bed because they had such wild expectations for themselves, they began to self-sabotage themselves because one thing went wrong. It can be the smallest thing, like they woke up late, or the hotel didn't have the breakfast they want, or they got crappy night's sleep. You get crappy night's sleep all the time during the week, which is why we're energy drink fanatics, because that's just what happens. And it didn't affect you at all in training, and shouldn't affect you in the meet, but they chose to make that self-limiting belief the reason why they had a poor meet, or they weren't prepared. Meanwhile, everything in the meet prep went fantastic, or in the sport prep went fantastic, but that one day was off. So they, instead of just chalking up and saying, I had a bad day and I shut myself down mentally, they have the excuse.
Yeah, the excuse is and this even applies to just regular training, people that aren't in meet prep, you know. I'll get a message from a lifter that's like, I sat in traffic for an extra 20 minutes today, so my squats went to shit. And I'm like, did your squats go to shit, or did you kind of just check out, you were frustrated, you didn't get in the zone, you didn't apply yourself to the workout the way that you normally would because you were frustrated by something that's so insignificant that doesn't matter anymore, and you let it affect your training. And I think that's what people use excuses for, is like a scapegoat. You know, like they maybe aren't feeling super, super motivated today. So they're like, well, this session's gonna suck because of X, Y, Z. You already talked yourself into it sucking. And I see this a lot with people that are injured as well, or have some sort of like nagging pain. They're like, well, bench is gonna go terribly today because my elbow hurts. I'm like, nah, well, you already told yourself, you self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. Like you told yourself it's gonna suck 3 hours before you're even in the gym for absolutely no reason. Like injuries happen in powerlifting, and people allow that to limit them later on down the line. Like, yeah, of course you're gonna have some like, you know, issues with exercise selection. Like maybe you can't do this exercise because this injury happened and blah, 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 blah. But you're allowing yourself to use that injury as a scapegoat for why things don't feel good. And the self-sabotaging thing, I feel like, is so relevant, and I can speak on that from not necessarily lifting, I guess, but just in life in general. Self-sabotaging happens all the time. You know, you get really, really excited about good things happening, and when those good things start to happen to you and they consistently happen, you're like, well, something bad has to happen now because this never happens to me. And that's a form of self-sabotage, because you once again are having a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you talk yourself into bad things happening to you. If good things are happening to you, they're happening to you because you're allowing them to happen to you and you're working for them to happen to you. It's not that they are just like freak accidents and like luck that you're stumbling upon. Like you are actively being successful in your life, doing the things that are making you successful, so you're reaping the benefits of that. The only reason that things would like downtrend from that is if you stop working towards those things.
Right, and that's why I actually wanted to title this Friends of Failure, because I'm a big proponent of seeking out failure and becoming friends with it and not fearing it. Because, you know, the great example of that is Thomas Edison, when he was trying to invent the light bulb, was asked by a reporter how it felt to fail over 900 plus times to not invent the light bulb. And Edison's mind shift was, I didn't fail 900 plus times to invent the light bulb. I've discovered 900 plus times not to invent the light bulb, not the way. And everything was a learning lesson. And it's like, same thing with failure. Failure in life isn't finite. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the day even. It's usually just the end of something, like a training session or end of that rep or whatever. If you miss a lift, life goes on, and it's not a big part of your life. It's just one lift. It's maybe 1 second of the day. You have to become friends with failure, because then looking at that rep or that competition is why? What went wrong? What broke down? What can I improve upon? You have to seek out failure to achieve things. And what I thought was really, really cool, how many people were in tune, 43 on mine, how many people were in tune to the fact that they actually fear success? Because like Riley said, when you succeed at something, your audience grows, your expectations grows, the amount of work grows, the responsibility grows. You actually have to take on more and more things when you are successful. It means you're responsible for so many more things and so many more facets to look over. So it's more work. And most of us will choose to pretend to fear failure so we don't have to do anything, because that's the easy way out. And I wanted to read that Chill Sodden quote that I have. I saved it so I can read it. This is actually directed towards men, so ladies don't get offended. I'm sorry, we live in a very sensitive time. But this is from Chael Sonnen when he was a coach on The Ultimate Fighter, and he was talking to the guys because they were lacking confidence before going into the octagon to fight. And he says, when doubt seeps in, you've got two roads you can take, either road. You can go to the left or you can go to the right. And believe me, they'll tell you failure is not an option. That is ridiculous. Failure is always an option. Failure is the most readily available option at all times, but it's a choice. You have to choose to fail, or you can choose to succeed. If we can plant seeds and let them know, and he's putting in quotes, move your feet, keep your hands up, stay off the bottom, that is the road to victory, or self-doubt and negative talk, and this is the road to failure. But failure is always there, and it's okay to recognize that. If you can leave you with anything today, in my long journey through all this, is 1, it's okay. 2, it's normal. And as athletes, especially as men and male athletes, we hate to admit weakness to ourselves. And when we're dealing with something, you've got some kind of hiccup, first thing is acknowledge it. And what he's saying is, the fear of failure or self-doubt is actually what's going to make you fail 9 out of 10 times, because you're talking yourself into it, you're believing it, and you're giving yourself the quit option. It takes a lot more courage to succeed because it means you're trying. So in the end of the day, you have to tell yourself, if I miss a rep on the platform or in training, is it really the end of the day, or is it just the start of a journey? Failure is not an end. Failure is the beginning. Like, what is the mummy saying? Death is just the beginning. You didn't die. Life goes on. But so many more of us are willing to take that chance and put ourselves out there and take the risk, because it means success. And when we're successful, we have so much more to do, but it's so much more fulfilling. So in my opinion, you always want to become friends with failure, because that's part of your teaching journey. That's why Jordan has just put out things that your friend should call you out on what you're not doing or say things to you, because that's what true friends are. True friends should be to boost you up, to build you up. So we talked about that in the first episode, having an accountability system. Call you on your bullshit when you're fearing success, because it means you're not doing the things you could do. You're self-sabotaging yourself, so you have an excuse. There is no excuse for not achieving something more so than not trying. Because if you keep trying and keep getting better at the process, you're going to achieve the result.
Yeah, well, and people always are like, well, these are my limitations, right? And your limitations aren't your injury. Your limitations aren't your lack of knowledge. Your limitations aren't your lack of resources. Your limitations aren't your strength level. They're not education level. Your limitations are literally the ones that you put up yourself. Yeah, so it's all within your mindset. Like if I tell myself every single day when I go into the gym that I'm going to have a terrible session, I will 100%
guarantee it.
have a terrible session.
You're right.
Every single time, and I will, because that's the limit I set for myself. If I'm gonna have a rough session and I go in and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do my absolute best today. I 100% can guarantee that I'm gonna have a better day than for at least trying to have a good day versus just telling myself I'm gonna have a bad day. So the possibility of success is scary because, like Trevor said and we mentioned earlier, it kind of does put yourself on a little bit higher of a pedestal, I suppose, within yourself, or you set a higher standard for yourself. And that is scary in itself because you're like, well, I constantly have to meet that bar. And yeah, you constantly have to level up. That's kind of the game of life. Why would you want to stay stagnant forever? Being mediocre is boring. It's lame. It's not
nobody
fun.
chases average.
Nobody wants to be mediocre. So of course you're always going to have to level yourself up and hit a new level or raise a new standard. But you can't just not try because Trevor mentioned we talked about this on one of our walks that everything is figure outable. So as long as you're consistently trying to reach that standard, you will fall closer to that standard than if you didn't try at all. So if your next standard is on level 100, if you actually try to aim for level 100, you may make it to 90, but if you don't try at all, you're still at level 0. So why not try and be scared of trying, right? It's hard to conceptualize for people that kind of are go-getters and they understand that. Failure is scary, I get that, but I don't think that that's the problem that most people have.
Do you feel success or do you feel failure?
Do I fear it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said feel it.
No, fear. Sorry, I thought fast, even though I'm not the caffeinated one right now.
No, I think realistically, I fear success more than failure, just because it is you do have to reach new heights every single time, and that does seem daunting because you're like, well, what if you hit an end wall? Okay, we don't live in what ifs. We live in the now. We live in the present. We live each day trying to get better each day. Your main goal should be to be better than who you were yesterday.
Absolutely, and that is the hardest thing. It wasn't until I realized that I feared success that I actually achieved so much more in life, because I was actually like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Someone doesn't like it, someone doesn't buy it, someone doesn't want it, someone unfollows or unfriends me, whatever. That's okay. They're not who my message is for in the first place. They're not who I'm trying to reach. They don't want it, they don't receive it, they just bypass it. But it wasn't until I realized that I was more afraid of success than failure that I actually really started trying. Because not everything's going to work. I try things and sometimes they work and sometimes they work great. Sometimes they're a colossal failure, but I'm still alive and I'm still succeeding. I keep getting better every day, every month. Things are growing. I track and monitor my progress in so many different multiple ways, from personal strength or my savings and seeing that net worth and things appreciate and grow, and assets versus liabilities. Can I save more? Can I do more? These are all measurable things, and that's how we should be looking at progress. It really isn't a success or failure. It's all a learning step of, what have I learned to do? How much more? How many of you are old? But how many of you are like, man, I wish I knew what I knew 10 years ago. I would get so much more done. You wouldn't. Because just because you know it doesn't mean you're going to do it. It's the action step. And
application is key.
Yeah. There's an expression that action alleviates anxiety. Because once you actually try something, once you start something, you're going to be less and less nervous from it. How many of you were so nervous your first meeting? When you get to 30 plus meetings like I did, dude, I can sleep at the competition. I can't sleep upstairs in my bedroom, but I can sleep at the competition because I'm so relaxed. If I sit down, I'd probably pass out and take a nap, because it no longer causes any anxiety of how I'm going to perform, what I'm going to do, because I've been there so many times and I trained to that same standard every time. So it just feels like a fancy training session.
Yeah.
Action alleviates the anxiety. If you're afraid of something, you have to go do something. You do it because once you alleviate that anxiety, then it's no longer anything and you've now succeeded. That's another measure of success. Have I done something I haven't done before? She's been telling everyone who will listen all week how I ate beans. I'm a super picky eater and I don't like them. And I went to a seminar and I didn't want to be offensive, and they had rice, pork, and chicken, and all the rice was mixed with beans, and I've never eaten a bean in my entire 40 years of existence until that day. It wasn't that bad. I was super scared about it, but I succeeded. Now, what I'm struggling with this week is reading books. For some reason, I can't get into any books, and I'm struggling so much. I'm going through 5 different books, haven't read them. But you know what? It's just a matter of finding a topic I actually want to read at the moment. That's part of the problem is I've bought so many different books on different topics. I'm not applying myself to the topic I really want to learn. And that's what held me back. So after the first 4 books weren't working, I went to a book that was recommended by Tim Ferriss called The 22 Irrefutable Laws of Marketing, and it was so much more interesting to me. I'm breezing through it. So you're going to chase your interests, and it took 4 failures. 4 failures in 4 different books that I actually do want to learn about and understand, but not this month. They weren't right for this time. And that's something we talk about with training programs is not getting stuck in a certain training program, but adhering to the athlete. What does the athlete want to do? What do they adhere to? Your life is the same way. If you like being busy in the morning, or I like being busy in the morning, that's when I'm going to be busiest. If you want to be productive in the afternoon, you're going to be productive in the afternoon. Finding what you like, and you're going to learn it all as you go. Everything is figure-outable. So that's the thing is if you seek out and become friends with failure, you're going to figure so much out that you will not fear failure. You actually get so successful, you start fearing, well, what's going to happen if I succeed? How much more do I have to do to keep going? And that's why people fear success.
Well, also, once you realize that you're not actually scared of failure, you don't really think about failure anymore, so nothing really is a failure. Like, once you remove that kind of limitation from yourself, like, once you remove that thought process of, like, what if I fail? Nothing seems like a failure anymore. Everything is just a learning opportunity. Let's see, like, this week and last week, my, like, struggle or fear kind of has been, like, consistently continuing to put out my website and post, like, my t-shirts, my training programs, anything that I want to say, my blogs, like that's kind of my fear to put it out, and like my thought process and why it scares me is because I'm like, well, what if someone doesn't like it? And you know what? What I've realized is that I really kind of don't care if someone doesn't like it, because if they don't like it, then they're also not my audience, which we've talked about a lot at extensive.
I love when people hate me, so hate on, bring it on. I love it because you're still talking about me, you're still watching me, so fuck you and thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, like we talked about that, where it's like, I'm worried about putting my stuff out there because I'm like, well, what if someone doesn't like it? And it's like, what if my friends think it's lame? And it's like, if your friends think that what you're doing for your success is lame or not good enough, those are not your friends. So you should find new ones. So you should consider that a win, because now you've learned who your real friends are.
You've just made space for somebody better.
So, like the people that are for you will always support you, even in your failures. Like, even if you aim for something and you totally miss it and you crash and burn and whatever, the people that support you are still going to love you and love what you're doing and help you back up. So as long, like you have a good accountability system, you have good friends, as long as you stop fearing falling and stop fearing like not hitting that level that you want to hit, as soon as you remove that from yourself, you will become more successful. And then you kind of just don't care. And having that, like, I don't care, I'm going to do whatever it takes to succeed attitude is kind of dangerous in a really good way.
It is dangerous in a good way. You're going to get a lot from that. You're going to, like you said, you're going to realize who's your actual friend category, who they're friends who you need to get rid of, make space for, or maybe limit the amount of time or exposure you give them. And then what are you able to achieve? Because once you stop fearing failure and you start fearing success, and you start going towards success, you're going to have a lot on your plate of awesome stuff. Whether it be business, whether it be life, whether it be friendships, or whether it be adventures. I see people go online all the time, and they're having travel adventures, or kudos to those of you who will jump out of a perfectly good plane. I will never skydive in my entire life. When it comes to fearing failure, I will stay on the sidelines of fearing that one. It's a perfectly good plane. I don't even like flying to seminars or meets, but I do it because I have to, but I don't want to. Like, I also don't like road trips. I don't invite me anywhere. We peopled this weekend. I'm all people down. We people twice. It was a big thing. That was a big win for us. That was an accomplishment. We feared it, and we did it, and we survived. But you have to run towards the fire, not from the fire, because that fire is burning for a reason. And that fire is inside you. I know it sounds strange for a lot of people, but you have desires, you have goals, you have dreams. It's going to take more and more and more from you, more effort from you, and more time. And I always say growth happens when you're least comfortable, when you're step out of your comfort zone. It's true. You do have to not worry about failure. You have to find failure, become friends with failure, so you learn how to succeed. And that's the most important thing, is learning what not to do the hard way, unfortunately, not the easy way. Even if people come before you and you can learn from their mistakes, you're going to learn a lot more from your own. And just go out there and make them.
Yeah. And like, just to relate it to kind of training, because I feel like that's something we need to relate to as well. So
absolutely.
That's what our audience is. Anyone, I know Trevor can relate because he's had multiple massive injuries before.
Still alive, still living.
But like, So my biggest limitation recently, semi-recently with lifting was I used to compete at 181, and when I moved to Florida, I lost 20 pounds, whether it be stress or because it's a fucking swamp down here or what. I don't know, but
You mean it's not a postcard beautiful all the time?
not all the time.
Oh, you're ruining it for the whole travel industry.
You know, so when I first moved here, I think I was like right around 183 to 185, and like my first couple months, I dropped all the way down to like 163. So that's a massive weight drop, and I let that affect me more mentally than physically, honestly. And every session, I was kind of like scared of weights that I've hit before. And like, granted, you know, like massive weight drop like that does have its repercussions on strength, but I was allowing it to affect me more mentally than anything. Like I would walk up to the bar scared. You know, I was like, I'm too small for this now. I can't squat this or whatever. Squats are my nemesis. I hate squats, but I love them. So you know,
just
like
waiting on them to love you back.
I'm trying so hard. Just please love me. You know, so I'd walk up to the bar and I'd be kind of scared and timid, and that would transfer over into the actual lift, and then I'd be like, why did I miss that? Oh, it's probably because I walked up to it like it owned me. You know, like we move the weights, they don't move us, right? So like walk up to the weight like you own it. Like it's so like kind of lame and cheesy and like
it's cheesy.
But like you have
to approach it with confidence in how fast you're gonna move it and how hard you're gonna lift it versus, oh my god, what's this going to do to me? Which is hard, especially when you have come back from an injury like I have on a couple occasions. You know, you tend to be a little bit apprehensive. And it's like every time I slowly would up it, and you're like, how's that? I'm like, well, I can go up again because I made it. I didn't die, nothing tore up my body. And I started getting more and more ferocious with the amount of reversal speed and tenacity I put into the lift, which makes me stronger over time. But you conquer fear with repetition.
And action.
Mm-hmm. So the action will alleviate the anxiety, and the repetition will conquer the fear that it becomes second nature. And so she's been squatting enough at this lower body weight now for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. I'm pretty, like, once I removed that limitation from my brain of like, oh, I'm smaller, I can't lift the same weights. I've like hit the same numbers on all of my lifts that I did at 185, and I'm 165 right now. So yeah, like I lost a lot of weight, but I'm still managing to hit the same amount. Like my goal is to beat like when I compete next, my goal is to beat my total that I achieved at 181 and as a 165er. So once I removed those limitations, it became a lot. My training transformed. so really, like when it comes to training, you have to just go in and attack it. You can't think about, you know, like what hurts and what could go wrong and what's holding you back. Like you can't do that. You just and that's what I tell all my lifters. I'm like, just do. Stop thinking. Shout out to Chelsea. The biggest overthinker that I have as a client. Love you, but you need to just do. That's why I tell her all the time. I'm like, stop thinking, just do. Like you know what to do. You've squatted 1,000,000 times. You've deadlifted 1,000,000 times. You've done it so many times. Just do it. Like you know what to do.
Yeah, I like to bring it down to 1Q, and the 1Q for me for squats and deadlifts is just breath. You know, as soon as I take my breath, it's on, it's ready to go. So, you know, I make that autonomous that everything sets with my breath. My tension sets, my rooting sets, my brace sets, it all sets with the breath. So you just find that 1Q, and that's where it's at. And for a lot of people, when they're hearing 10 different cues and 10 different voices, they don't know what to focus on. They're focused on everything. If you're focused on everything, you're achieving and hitting nothing. Yeah. Focus on one thing. I don't care if it's feeling your belt. I don't care if it's feeling your pinkies. I don't care if it's your breathing. But make it come down to one thing. Focus on only one thing, not everything.
Yeah. Aim small, miss small.
Aim small, miss small. We were watching American Sniper. Is that what that's from? Could be. I don't know. We watched too many movies. I don't remember.
We didn't watch American Sniper.
Well, I've seen American Sniper. Sorry I didn't watch it with you.
You should be sorry that you didn't watch it with me. Yeah, you should be sorry.
I'm sorry. It came out before I met you. Next time, I'll wait.
Every time a movie comes out, just wait. Just in case.
Mind you, now I'm making her watch all the 80s and 90s movies from my childhood before she was born.
He said making is a really loose term because I will watch pretty much any movie every Sunday, which is probably what we're going to do shortly after this.
Right after this, movie time.
Yeah, every Sunday I'll be like, all right, what are we watching this week? And he'll choose something that like I haven't seen. And I love cheesy movies, like whether it's like cheesy horror.
You love cheese. Go figure.
You know, cheese in itself.
Cheese of any kind. Cheesy movies, cheesy food. I love cheese.
They don't call me hot cheese mommy for nothing. So that's probably what we're gonna do later today. But yeah, the movies from the 80s and 90s are the greatest. Like, I mean, movies today are great because, like, you know, CGI and all this cool animation and explosions and weird animals and stuff. But like, I just love 80s and 90s movies and like the special effects and how cheesy it is and like how creative they had to be to do their makeup, to do their special effects. Like, it's just wild, and I just have a really cool appreciation for it. So yeah.
It's enjoyable. She spent the day with me at my brother's house having food and listening to him rattle back and forth movie quotes from 20 plus years of living together as brothers. So it's fun. I always have to catch up with some of these movies. Like, has she seen this yet? No.
Yeah.
Has she seen that yet? No. It's on the list, Eric. Calm down.
Yeah, pretty much every time we report
One a
back,
week. That's it.
yeah, every time we report back to him, I have to tell him like a new movie that I've watched. So,
Oh, I saw this.
yeah. So that way he will continue to own me, I guess, and not disown me and think that I suck.
Yes, and he gave us some tech advice over there because my brother's the tech guy. I don't know anything about tech. He's all tech guy. I'm the body guy. He's the tech guy. So that's how it works.
The body guy.
The body guy. That sounds super creepy.
Yeah, it
I'm gonna change my profile into the body guy.
Please don't.
That's like when we drove up to Tampa this weekend. What was it? Hard Bodies or Body Shapers or whatever.
Oh, it was Body Shapers.
Body Shapers by Raphael.
By Raphael, that's right. Yeah, that's creepy.
It's very cheesy.
Raphael, you need a new business model.
Yeah, something a little bit more up to date than Body Shapers by Raphael. It was all like pastel, and I guarantee that guy has a lot of spandex in his closet.
Yeah, like glittery spandex.
Glittery
like,
spandex.
Who
But,
was
you know,
Richard?
friends with it. Richard Simmons?
Yes.
I with banana shorts. That's awesome. So clearly we've gone way off topic, but we're having fun, so deal with it. But that was really awesome. Those of you guys who interact with us, that's excellent. I appreciate you guys sharing it. Please share the podcast again. We'll alert you as soon as it's up on iTunes and Google, so it'll be easier for you to listen to. I love that you guys are answering the polls. Send us any questions or topics you want us to talk about. We save them all and discuss them. We have a list of like 8 topics already for the first 8 episodes that we're going to go over and expand on.
Yep.
And if there's anything, and we're even talking about possibly bringing guests on here and there, like maybe 1 guest a month. So if there's anyone you want us to bring on and discuss success with them, anyone you feel is successful and you want to learn from or emulate from, let us know. We'll contact them and see if we can get them on. And yes, before you guys say it, at some point we'll get Stacy on here because I know it's going to be like 15 messages. Get Stacy on!
Yeah, there's also been a couple people that messaged me personally asking about a couple topics. I think I got like 3 or 4. So we will get to those topics. I don't exactly know when, but like some of them have been about like analysis paralysis, which I know is something that we talk about a lot, like in this household. There's also like rest days, like when to push, when not to push, that sort of thing. So those people that reached out to me specifically with topics, like we will get to them eventually. We're kind of just figuring out like what order we want to do things in or what we feel like is most prevalent for the week, because it makes it easier for us to talk about it if we have like an actual experience with it, and like things like failure are things that we talk about all the time, and new business ventures and whatnot. So
yeah, I have failed so many more times than I've succeeded, but the great thing is the success is so much more empowering than the failures.
Yeah.
I've had bigger successes than I've had failures, but I've had a multitude more failures than I've had success. Like I've missed more lifts than I've made, but the lifts keep going up in bigger and bigger numbers, and bigger success with athletes that I coach, and bigger success with business and just in life in general. So the successes always outweigh the failures, but it's because I seek out and chase the failure.
Yeah, so so we will get to all of your topics eventually. We just really like doing this, and we're trying to get better at it every single week and trying new things. And Trevor and I like to talk a lot, so that's why we're here.
Highly caffeinated conversations.
Caffeinated conversations happen 24/7. So yeah, but overall, like we were really pretty blown away with like the support that we received the first
It was
week.
awesome.
It definitely did not go unnoticed who supported it. So that was cool. We hope to continue that, and hope that you guys continue to really, really like what we're putting out there.
And we're trying to keep them short and concise, not like hour-long or 2-hour-long episodes.
Yeah.
Just short and concise, 25, 30 minutes, so we can be quick on a topic. You can listen to it in a car drive to the gym, get amped up, and go hit your lift.
Yeah.
Or hit your life.
Yeah, because who doesn't get amped up to the sound of mine and Trevor's voice?
Pure fire.
Yes.
In fuego.
Yes.
And on that note, you guys have a great day.